who is responsible for initiating the contract renewal, tenants or landlords? It depends. How do I answer that question? It really depends. Some of it depends on the agreement, because so we're talking. Let's talk about Dubai. Dubai has its own rental law, and that law is drafted in the way that the contract is renewed automatically on the same terms and conditions, unless one or the other party provides otherwise. So therefore, in terms of the renewal, in fact, it is assumed by the law that the renewal will happen automatically unless one or the other party will speak out. So sometimes, so that's what the law provides for. Sometimes, or I guess in many cases, the tenancy agreements are drafted in such a way that it places a burden on the tenant to notify the renewal. Now, there is that sort of contractual, I will not call it obligation, but there's a contractual sort of provision that creates an impression of an obligation on a tenant to do so. But legally speaking, because the law sort of supersedes any kind of contractual obligations or contractual provisions that may contradict the law. So the law does not require for any party to renew, right? The law sets as the foundation that renewal happens automatically unless one of the party basically does not want to renew. So for example, if your landlord wants to evict you because you did not notify the landlord of renewal, because there's a specific provision in the contract, that particular contractual provision will not be deemed valid or enforceable because it contradicts the law. So going back to your question, who has the responsibility? There is no responsibility. So the contract is assumed to be renewing automatically unless you or the tenant, or in most cases the tenant or the landlord, want to not renew, although landlords have very limited circumstances under which they may not renew the contract. So the Dubai law is very specific that the non-renewal of contracts from the landlord standpoint is very limited to specific circumstances, which in short requires a 1-year notice and specific reasons and legitimate reasons for eviction. There's nobody actually has the obligation, in other words, to notify of the renewal.